Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We start with 5090 O-Level Biology. This is the MCQ paper for November 22 and this paper 1-2. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about some Islamic injunctions as well, and I want you to look at this from the Quran. And this worldly life is not but diversion and amusement. And indeed, the home of the hereafter, that is the eternal life, if only they knew. So I want you to ponder about it, that this dunya is very temporary, and think of the hereafter. Question 1. The diagram shows cells from a plant leaf. Which structure contains a high concentration of magnesium? We all know that is the chlorophyll. And then you all know that the chlorophyll is present inside the chloroplast. So these are the chloroplasts. These green thingies are the chloroplasts. So the answer is B. So chlorophyll inside chloroplasts and magnesium is present in that. Now what is A is the nucleus, D is the xylem vessel, and C is the cytoplasm of the spongy mesophyll cell. Then coming to part 2, it says the diagram represents the cell structures of a bacterial cell, a liver cell, and an onion epidermal cell, and a red blood cell. So we have a bacterial cell, a liver cell, which is a eukaryote, bacteria is a prokaryote, onion epidermal cell is a plant cell, it's a eukaryote, and a red blood cell is a eukaryotic cell. So bacteria, red blood cell. Now which structure is represented by X? You see, X contains what? X contains all. Now another, let's coming back to bacterial cell. Bacteria do not have a nuclear membrane. Liver cells has a nuclear membrane. Onion epidermal has a nuclear membrane. Red blood cell does not have a nucleus at all. So what is the thing which is common to all four of them? This is what you had to understand, is what is common to all four of them. So if you knew what was a red blood cell does not have a nucleus. So that is why the answer is A. Cell membrane is common to all of them. The other was cellulose cell wall. Cellulose cell wall is wrong because it's only present in the onion epidermal cell. Nucleus, why is that wrong? Because nucleus is not present in a bacteria and is not present in a red blood cell. Sap vacuole. Sap vacuole is present only in plant cells, not in liver cells, not in a bacteria, and not in a red blood cell. So that is why the answer is A. Question 3. The diagram shows a typical plant cell which has been in a concentrated salt solution for 10 minutes. Concentrated salt solution means 10% sodium chloride solution, which is outside. Now, which numbered structures are partially permeable? Now, partially permeable is only the cell membrane. So, 1 is the cell wall, 2 is the cell membrane, and 3 is the cytoplasm. So, if you knew that, I'm sure everybody knew that. So, that is why the answer is D, which is 2 only. Then coming to question number 4, which process is moving nitrate ions into the cell shown? Which process is moving nitrate ions into the cell shown? You know this active transport. Because why is it active transport? Because it is, say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So from 6, and inside we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So inside we have 15. So if anything is moving from a low concentration to a high concentration, it has to be active transport. Then it says fats are broken down by enzyme lipase to produce fatty acids and glycerol. According to the lock and key model of enzyme action, what is the lock and what is the key? So if this is the enzyme, then the enzyme is the lock and the key is the substrate which fits into it, right? So what we have to understand is that the answer is B. Why is it B? Because lipase is the lock and lipase is the lock. So this is going to be this, lipase is the lock, and fats is the substrate. So fats is the substrate because lipase break down fats into fatty acid and glycerol. Break down fats into fatty acid and glycerol. Now this is wrong. The key is not, the substrate is not fatty acids and glycerol. Fatty acids and glycerol are the product. Question number 6. The graph shows the effect of varying pH values on the activity of 4 different enzymes A, B, C, and D. Which enzyme is active in the stomach? You know that there is about a very low pH. So the low pH is around about 2 or 3. So pepsin in the stomach will work in because there's the HCl. So that is why the answer to 6 is A, because in the stomach we have an acid. That's the only place in the body where it's of a highly acidic pH. Then it says a small mountain lake has aquatic plants growing underwater on the lake bed. Shortly after heavy rainfall, the mud on the lake bed becomes stirred up and the water level rises. What does this cause the rate? Why does this cause the rate of photosynthesis of these plants to fall? Now, this also come in the other variant. So, why does it cause basically what is happening? The answer is C, lower light intensity. Why? Because you see, the mud which has been stirred up makes the water is not clear anymore. It's a muddy water. So light cannot pass. So less light passing, less rate of photosynthesis. Then we have question 8. The graph shows how the yield of a wheat crop varies with the addition of different amounts of nitrate fertilizer. So you keep on adding amount of fertilizer. So say you added 1 and then 2 and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like this. You can give any figures to it. And then you have on this side the yield increases to 10 mounds per acre, then 20, then 30, then 40 mounds per acre. It says yield. Yield means how much of the wheat did we get, not the plant, because we don't want the stem, we just want the seeds. So we only use the wheat seeds. Now I just want you to be aware of this. You see, this is a wheat field. And in an acre, when we collect it, no, this is the seed that we want. This is what we're going to get out. We don't want the stem, that's hay actually, which you feed to the animals. So all this wheat is collected and then we weigh it and we see, okay, in 1 acre area, how much was the yield? Yield means we say crop yield. Now, some of you might not understand this word. Crop yield means the mass of wheat per unit area. How many mounds of wheat did we have in 1 acre of land, or whatever unit of area of land are you going to use? It's up to you which country you are in. They use different units of area. Now it says the what can be concluded from the graph. You see, what can be concluded from the graph is that the yield is increasing, but then it is decreasing as you have increased the fertilizer. So it increases to a certain amount, like you had the fertilizer 1 gram, 2 gram, 3 gram, 4 gram, 5, 6, 7, or something like this. So it increased till about this time, it increased till about 4, but then when you added 5 gram of fertilizer, then it started to decrease. So this is why the answer is D. Nitrates are required for healthy plants, but excess nitrates may inhibit growth. So it is decreasing the crop yield. Now, why is this wrong? Is nitrates help the formation of chlorophyll in the wheat leaves? Or that's nothing from the graph. We can't tell that from the graph. The yield of wheat is proportional to the amount of fertilizer. Well, then you should have got a linear correlation graph. Nitrate is needed for the formation of proteins. Well, that doesn't show in the graph. So when you say what can be concluded from the graph, then say to yourself, does the graph tell me this? Does the graph say this? Does the graph tell me this? Then question number 9, a lack of certain minerals and vitamins can lead to deficiency disease. Which row shows the correct symptoms of such diseases? So deficiencies in the diet, calcium and vitamin C, calcium, vitamin D, iron and vitamin C, iron and vitamin D. Now symptoms in the body, iron results in less hemoglobin, so less red blood cells. And vitamin D is required for the absorption of calcium. So if calcium is not absorbed, calcium is going to strengthen the bones. So if this is not going to be added, so that is why D is the answer. You see, bleeding gums is vitamin C. Here this is vitamin C, but then iron has to be hemoglobin. Hemoglobin means red blood cells. And vitamin C causes scurvy, which is, of course, because in your syllabus you have the symptoms. Then question number 10. The diagram shows how food is processed in the human alimentary canal. Food containing large insoluble molecules enters the body. Large pieces of food broken down to smaller pieces, large molecules broken down to small soluble molecules. Undigested food leaves the body, small soluble enter the blood, small soluble molecules used by the cell. Now, which row correctly identifies the names and the stages? So that wasn't a very difficult question. You see, because you see, you've got to understand is what was absorption. Absorption enters the blood. This S was absorption. Assimilation was the use. Assimilation is small molecules taken and used by cells. So this was assimilation. And enzyme digestion was large molecules broken down into small soluble molecules. So this was R. What was Q? Large pieces of food broken down to small pieces. Mechanical digestion. This is in the mouth. Ingestion and mechanical digestion. Large insult food contains large insult enters the body. Now this is ingestion, taking in food, eating food, taking in food. Question number 11, which function is not carried out by the liver? We've done this in the other variant as well, secretion of digestive enzymes. No enzymes are produced by the liver. Please remember the liver produces bile, and bile is stored in the gallbladder. And then the bile enters the bile duct, and then of course enters the duodenum, the small intestine, and bile emulsifies fats, which means it's mechanical digestion, it's not chemical digestion, and the liver does not produce any enzymes. 12. Which statements about root hairs are correct? The cell membrane can allow movement of water and ions into the cell. The cell vacuole extends into the root hair. They're formed as an extension of the outer. So I've done this in the previous paper, so please have a look at that. This is exactly the same question. Then the table 30, question 13, the table shows weather conditions in a field. Which row shows conditions that would cause a plant to wilt most rapidly? Now you see, you've got to understand what is wilting. Wilting is when there is the water loss is more than the water uptake. So the temperature has to be high, the wind speed has to be high, and the time of the day has to be in the noon or the afternoon, and it has to be very dry outside. Why? Because then the water vapors are going to diffuse out. Because if it's going to be humidity, then of course water vapors are not going to diffuse out. Water vapors diffuse out of the leaf because of a diffusion gradient. If there are more water vapors outside and there are more water vapors inside the leaf, then there's going to be no diffusion of water vapors. So that is why the answer to question 13 is B. Why? Because air temperature was high, dry humidity, it was 1400 hours, means 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the wind speed was high. So you see, this was wrong. This was midnight. 8 was in the morning. It's not very hot. And 2200 hours means it was 11 o'clock at night. Some people have a rare heart condition in which the lower left chamber of the heart has not developed properly, much smaller. The immediate result of this condition is to call lower than normal blood flow into which blood vessel? Basically, that's very easy. Which blood vessel was the aorta? Because from the left ventricle arises the aorta. Then question number 15. Which route does blood take around the body? Now, this is either you know it or you don't know it. You have to really know this chapter on the heart. So, vena cavas go to the heart, and then the pulmonary artery, then the lungs, and the pulmonary vein, and then back to the heart, and then the aorta. So the answer was C. The others are all incorrect. Some are wrong somewhere. I'm sure if you know it, you'll know how to do this question. It's not a very difficult question. Now, coming to question number 16, the diagram shows the transfer of materials between blood and a capillary and tissue fluid. Now, this is the capillary. So this is the capillary which they have shown you here. I'm just coloring this in red. And then these are the tissue cells. And then this fluid in between is the tissue fluid. Now this arrow is coming out here, and this arrow is also, so 1 and 2 are something which is moving in from the blood into the tissue fluid, and then of course into the body cells. Now that has to be oxygen and glucose, can't be anything else. That has to be oxygen and glucose. And then what is going back? This is 3 and 4. 3 and 4, what is going back is carbon dioxide and water. You see, where would urea be going? 4, if it's urea, why would urea be going where? Why would urea be going into the blood? That would only be in the liver cells because the liver produces urea. So the urea is produced in the liver cells and then it is going to go into the blood. And then the kidneys are going to remove the urea from the blood. Question 17. The experiment is set up as shown. Test tubes 1 and 2 contain lime water. Lime water is a clear solution that turns cloudy in the presence of carbon dioxide. Air is pumped through the apparatus. So air is coming in. This is a question on these animals. These living animals are respiring and producing carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide is going here and is bubbling through here. So this is going to become cloudy. So test tube 1 and 2 contain lime water. Lime water is clear that turns cloudy in the presence of carbon dioxide. Air is pumped through the apparatus. What is the appearance of lime water in test tube 1 and 2 after a period of 10 minutes? Now you know that is that this solution absorbs carbon dioxide. So test tube 1 has to be clear. Test tube 1 has to be clear and test tube 2 has to be cloudy because carbon dioxide produced by these animals coming here is going through this. So what we have to understand is that is why the answer is B, clear and cloudy. Question 18. Fitness training in athletes reduces the need for anaerobic respiration. Reduces the need for anaerobic respiration. It also increases the rate at which lactic acid is removed. So fitness training reduces the need for so less lactic acid will be produced in train athletes who are very fit. What you need to understand is that you see it said it increases the rate at which lactic acid is removed after exercise, but it reduces the need for anaerobic respiration. So it means less anaerobic respiration, less lactic acid produced. The table shows the concentration of lactic acid in the blood of 4 different athletes. They exercise for 20 minutes and rest. Now, how did I figure this out? I looked at it and I said, okay, which is the less lactic acid? So lactic acid concentration was the least, was here 85. So then 3, and then after that it was 90. So 2, and then it was 95. So that was 1, and then 98, it was 4. So 3, 2, 1, 4. Answer is A. You see, I mean, how did I figure this out? I figured it out because it said it reduces the need for anaerobic respiration. So if there is less anaerobic respiration, that means there's less lactic acid. So the fittest athlete is the one which has got less lactic acid. Fitness training in athletes reduces the need for anaerobic respiration. So that is why for the fitness, from the fittest to the least fit, which order is correct? And this is how I figured this out. Question 19, the diagram shows the human gas exchange system. Which row shows the correct labeling? What was 1? 1 was the larynx, 2 was the trachea, 3 is the bronchiole, and 4th is also another bronchiole. So the answer to 19 is D. So larynx, trachea, yes, sorry. 3 is the bronchus. 3 is the bronchus, right and left bronchus, and then bronchioles. So this could not have been. So this is, you see, this is the main trachea, and then it divides into right and left bronchus, and then further divisions are called the bronchioles. So larynx, trachea, bronchus, and bronchiole. So that is D. Then coming to question number 20. What are the 2 main functions of the kidneys? Now, the 2 main functions of the kidney, as you all know, is to remove what excess salt and excess water, and to remove urea. Not excess is only salt and water, and of course urea. Urea cannot be in excess. It has to be removed. It's very toxic for the body. It's a harmful toxic, and that is why people who go into kidney failure, the urea is going to damage the brain. So the person goes into uremic coma. So question number 20, that's why the answer is B, to remove excess salt in the blood, to remove urea from the blood. Okay, why is A wrong? uh, to make toxins in the blood harmless and to remove excess salt in the blood. Well, that is the toxins wali kahani is wrong. To remove urea from the blood plasma and to convert glucose to glycogen. Now that happens in the liver. Glucose is converted to glycogen in the liver, not in the kidney. To convert glucose to glycogen and make toxins. So glucose glycogen is in the liver, it's not in the kidney. So that is the first thing which you have to realize. We're talking about the kidney, not the liver. If somebody is confused, if a child is not very clear on the kidney and the liver functions, then he or she could get this wrong. Okay, so this completes 20 questions and we'll continue in the next video. And best of luck and thank you. And please do subscribe so that we hit the 10,000 mark. Thank you very much.